Hi, welcome to DBT Center of Orange County. I'm Nora Josephson, the Clinical Operations Director, and this is Dr. Sarah Lyndon, our Clinical Director. We just wanted to hop on here today and talk a little bit about how we're coping with all of the changes going on with the COVID-19 pandemic. So obviously this is a really challenging time and we're all experiencing lots of change. So we're just going to answer some of the questions that have been popping up from our clients and other events that we've been hosting. So Sarah, what skills have you found helpful during this time of immense change?
I think that one of the main things that I've found to be really helpful recently is doing kind of daily gratitudes, not waking up and the first thing I do be watching the news or answering emails, kind of just taking that moment to really settle in and check in with the day. I've also been doing a lot of radical acceptance because this is kind of the reality we're in, and fighting against reality doesn't really make it work, and that's where you can kind of start to see where change can come in. My please skills have been huge, so maintaining balanced eating, exercise, keeping my sleep schedule as close as it used to be as I can. And then I really like the tip skills too for this. Exercise is a way that's really helpful for me to kind of relieve anxiety. So kind of going on a lot of walks, and with the cool air, it's nice because it's kind of the temperature as well. What about you, Nora? What have you been doing during this time?
Definitely focusing on the please skills as well. So going on walks, trying to get exercise, prioritizing sleep, even though it can be more challenging without a clear schedule with working from home. Trying to keep that same sleep-wake cycle, getting out of the house, especially most of us being at home, social distancing. It's just nice to get out of that one environment that we're in all day. And then especially living with others within the home, really trying to practice non-judgment, because as I told my group this week, it can be so easy to get into venting and complaining about everything, the place that you're living in, all the people that you're living with, the current situation. And just to get out of that, I try to be mindful and practice non-judgment and also gratitude. So Sarah, you've been helping me stay on top of my gratitude game, but taking that time for myself to really reflect on what I am grateful for, what I am appreciating, what is still going well even during this time. And then my self-soothe skills. So utilizing my sense of smell and kind of ambiance with candles, and taking some time for myself, whether it be with like bubble baths or things like that, just to get away and slow down and be mindful.
Yeah, sounds great. I think those have been really, really helpful.
So Sarah, our next question, how do you maintain normalcy in a time that is not normal?
I think one of the really important things that we can do is try and maintain a schedule still. Some of us aren't working right now, and being home this much is definitely very different than I think a lot of us are used to. So trying to go to bed on time, Nora and I have both mentioned the please skills. So really maintaining that sleep schedule that we've been on, not staying up till like 2, 3 in the morning and sleeping until noon. So trying to go to bed and wake up around the same time that you were. Also really just trying to stay away from news after news after news report, because that's not what you would be doing typically when you're at home anyways. So I think just trying to maintain what we would have been doing anyways. Fortunately, I have been able to continue working even during this time. So it's been really helpful for me to like get up, do my morning routine, figure out when I can do my self-care in there, because it is a really unnormal time, and things are so different. And so if we can find any consistency, like eat dinner at the same time you normally eat dinner, eat breakfast in the morning, make sure you're cooking fresh things for yourself and not, just eating maybe frozen foods, because that's not what you would be doing in your typical day-to-day. So I think really just trying to, again, focus on those please skills and maintain some sort of structure.
Yeah, doing what you can during this time, definitely.
And so one question that we've been getting a lot, and Nora, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. A lot of people are asking, how do we support others during this time? We don't want to just tell people everything's going to be okay, because we don't know, really. This is new for all of us. So what do you suggest we tell other people to help be supportive for,
Right.
for
We
anybody
don't
who might be
know really
asking?
what's going on during this time. We don't know what the future holds. So one skill that we speak to in DBT is validation, and we just think validation is so important during this time. Instead of getting into problem solving or maybe minimizing anxiety and concerns around this coronavirus crisis, to really validate the person, to show that you understand why they might be stressed, why they might be voicing this anxiety. Maybe it's uncertainty around a job, maybe it's concern about their health or somebody else's. Even going out in public at all while we're being really encouraged to social distance or to wear masks or whatever it might be. So to show that understanding, to reflect what you're hearing from that person, to really try to practice actively listening, and then just show them compassion, to show them kindness and understanding for why they might be feeling these things. Because it is a normal time to feel anxious. We actually don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know how long we're going to be social distancing and be within our homes mostly, unless you're an essential worker. Or for those essential workers out there, they don't know how long they'll kind of be in this crisis mode. So to not minimize it, to really validate. And then if you aren't able to get validation from others, to remember to validate yourself, to show understanding of why you might be experiencing these feelings, and practice that self-validation too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point about the self-validation, because we might not always get it from others. So I think self-validation is going to be huge during this time.
Mm-hmm. So Sarah, how do you maintain a sense of personal self-care time when all your family members are home? We definitely have less space than we're used to. So how do you manage that?
I think it's about, finding a place in your home that is your safe space. If your self-care routine typically is something that's outside of your home, maybe you have a place you walk to, or maybe it's your yoga studio or your church or whatever it might be, that's kind of your safe space. Creating that in your own home. Now, not all of us have a lot of extra space, especially if we have all of our family members home right now. So that might be your bedroom. That might even be the bathroom, if that's the only space that you can actually kind of have for yourself during some time. And put up a little sign and say, like, please do not disturb, like you're taking this time for yourself. I think you also don't want to forget to take care of yourself in some of the ways that we typically do, like showering every day and like actually getting ready. I know I've definitely been on the yoga pants game since this all started, but, change out of your pajamas and put on a new pair of yoga pants or whatever it might be, just so that you're, still maintaining that self-care that our bodies really need. So, take a hot shower in the morning or in the night, whatever you were doing. And if you need to listen to music, listen to music. If you have a lot of members around the house, maybe just put in earphones or headphones. Also connecting with others, I think, is really important, because we're human beings. Connection is so important to us. So instead of just texting a friend, pick up a phone and call them, or even better, FaceTime with them, do a Zoom meeting. There's been a lot of really cool things that have been happening in the community, where I know Zoom has extended its like free time slots. Like, it used to be 30 minutes or something, and I think they've extended. There's things like House Party, where you can meet with your friends and play games. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us still to connect, even though it's a virtual platform. But I really do think that's important in self-care, because if part of your care is being around others, even though we're physically separated, doesn't mean that we have to be actually socially separated. So just really making sure to prioritize that in your day, and not, I think it can get really easy to just like lay on the couch all day and, watch TV shows or whatever it might be. And not to say that we don't all deserve a day like that, but we're going to be in this, or we have been in this for a couple weeks now, and it looks like it's going to be a couple weeks more. So, a month of sitting on your couch isn't going to be the best thing for you. So really just being mindful of what puts you in a place where you feel kind of good in your routine, and what brought you safety and comfort and peace before, continue to do that and find a way to create it in your own home, I would say.
Yeah, noticing what improves your mood. And I know
Hmm.
everyone's in different situations. Some are home alone, so making sure, yeah, they have that connection, scheduling time to connect with friends, to connect with a family. And then
Hmm.
those that are around others maybe need some space. So finding that personal time, definitely important.
Hmm. Nora, what would you say that are things that you can do to feel better during a time where you're not working or you're not feeling busy? And I know that we're seeing a lot of our essential workers out there kind of on the front lines, and I know that that can cause some inner conflict. Like, well, what can we do? So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of shame maybe can come up if you aren't one of those essential workers, or you aren't busy and working right now, especially if that's what you're used to. So I think one of the best skills to practice is self compassion. And for those that don't know what self compassion is, it's really just showing yourself the same compassion that you would other people. So noticing the form of suffering that's going on, being able to be mindful of that, recognizing our common humanity. So, recognizing that we're fallible, we're not perfect, we do experience challenges, and then showing yourself kindness. That's self kindness. So, Kristen Neff has done so much work on self compassion, and her website has many resources that you can turn to. And it's selfcompassion.org. So you could just Google that and find some of her resources and exercises for self compassion there. One of them that I love is the self compassion break, and it's just utilizing those three elements of self compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and self kindness, and just gives you that permission, right, to be in this place of suffering and to notice
Hmm.
and be understanding of what's coming up. And then other ways is to see what you can do, see how you can get involved even from your own home. So looking into how your community is helping those essential workers, or just how to get involved, how to be a positive influence during this time so that you do feel like you have a sense of purpose. And there are actions that you can take even just today, right? Living in the present, seeing what you can do now, not thinking about what you can do months from now or what you didn't do in the past, but what can you do in this moment?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think those are really great things to still stay involved because a lot of us went from like working 40 plus hours a week to kind of like a halt. And I know it can feel really, can be hard to like get motivation in that time and not feel that kind of shame and guilt. So I love the self compassion work.
Definitely. And then our final question, Sarah, how do you manage conflict during this time? I know I'm not alone to have experienced conflict with those that I'm living with. Being in such an enclosed space for
Hmm.
quite a while now, isn't easy. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, conflict is normal in general. And now we're kind of in a place where our typical go tos or those breaks we get from those that we live with aren't coming up now. And so it's kind of, it would be very normal for conflict to increase. I know I've experienced that myself. And I think one of my favorite skills is the stop skill. So if you're not familiar with the stop skill, it's literally like what it sounds like. You stop, you like kind of freeze, you take a step back, and that could be either physically, I might go to a different room, or even mentally, like, okay, what's my next step here? And then you want to just observe. So observe feelings, thoughts, urges, and then proceed mindfully. So that proceed mindfully for you might be that you take a break in the conversation that's coming up, and you kind of regulate yourself, and then maybe you do a dear man to the person if that's something that you're asking of them, or a request you're making or saying no. And the dear man is a little bit too much to go into in this context, but there's definitely, more information on our website and some YouTube videos too that can help describe that. But the dear man is just a way to ask for something that you want in an effective way. I think that especially during conflict, we don't always know what we're asking for. And I might be alone, but I don't think I am, where you get into a tiff and you realize halfway through that you're like, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong, and so I think really using those skills to just like regulate ourselves. And so in the stop skill, proceed mindfully might be go use a different skill, one of our tip skills, an emotion regulation skill, self-care. So maybe if you have the opportunity to be outside, like on a porch or a deck or a backyard or something, you go out there and you just kind of breathe and you have that cold air, and that's on the tip, the temperature. So I think that really the stop skill and some of our interpersonal effectiveness skills in terms of just what's the priority in this conversation and how do I keep my self-respect and keep the relationship, because you know the people we live with are important and sometimes it can be challenging,
Yes.
especially with the increased time at home. So
The things that jump out from both those skills is the effectiveness piece. So what's going to be effective? And that just makes me think of wise mind. Like, what is in my wise mind? What's going to work?
yeah,
What is in my values? And usually when we're in our emotion minds, especially with that interpersonal conflict, we're not saying the things that we would say if we were calm, grounded, listening to that wise mind.
Yeah, and that's why it's good to identify a space in your home, even if it's the bathroom and you're like, I'm just going in here, I'm gonna like splash some cold water on my face, or I'm gonna shut the door and breathe, if that's the only space you have, just to identify that space that's your go-to, you know, and communicating to your other family members or significant others, whomever you live with, that this is something you're going to be using. So if you have like, if you're like, I'm stopping, they respect that too. And you don't get the family member who kind of follows you, like hitting on the bathroom door, being like, no, I want to talk about this, you know? So I think having those conversations when you're in a calm place, just to say, this is a skill I'm going to be trying. And you can dear man them on how to be effective with you when you use it. So, but I think it's also really important to note that some of us are in home situations that are not necessarily safe for us. So it's always really important, if you are in a dangerous home environment, safety really is first and foremost. So, you know, Nora and I do want to encourage you, if you are finding yourself in a home environment that isn't safe for you, please reach out to local services, or you could also go on the NAMI OC website and see resources there, or contact the NAMI Warm Line, or the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And then on our website, dbtcenteroc.com, we also have a list of resources under the helpful and emergency services, because, you know, really, and I think Nora and I say this over and over and over again, you know, your safety is first and foremost. Like, that is the most important thing. And so we want to make sure that, you know, you're being mindful of your own safety and your own boundaries in this kind of different circumstance.
To, again, not minimize what you're going through, but take it seriously and take those steps to keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our questions today. But if you have any further questions, Sarah and I hope to hop back on here and create more videos. So definitely reach out to us through the website, and we will do our best to answer those questions that come in. But thank you so much for spending this time with us. And we hope that you stay safe and well during this time. Thank you.
All right, thanks.